Jess, to let me know it's meal time.
Yeah,
Yes.
Steve, come on now. It's mule and donkey time. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. Keeping them in line there. That's right. Folks, my name's Dave. That is Jess, and Jess brought Steve Edwards to us today to talk mules and donkeys. Of course, Jess, the border collie dog, he's got all the answers, but he's been working real hard with Steve over the last couple years of his life. Jess's life, that is, because he's only, what, 4 years old now?
7.
7. So he's been working with Steve for 7 years. Steve's been picking up slowly but surely. Jess has been keeping them in line. And today we're going to see if we can't figure out some of the answers to mule and donkey questions that y'all have. Hey, like I said, my name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every week we get together on Tuesdays to spend a little bit of time with you, our mule and donkey equine friends. If you got a horse, hey, come on in, and we'll answer any horse questions you got too. But usually the answer is just go buy a mule. No, I'm just kidding. That's half the answer when you say you got a horse. But we'll have a lot of fun, and Steve did work with horses. But the mule and the donkey, they are the Cadillac of the equine world, and our goal every single week, other than just spending time with you, is to help you gain the trust of your animal, get results when you go out and train, and experience the joy of owning a mule or a donkey. And it should be a joy. Of course, it's going to be challenges. Of course, you're going to come into problems. Of course, there's going to be some frustrations. But you know what? One of the great things about these animals is that it is the journey that really makes them special. And then you finally get that ride that you've been wanting, and all that hard work pays off. Well, we just hope that we get to be a part of that story that you are writing. The way it works is, number one, we just want to know that you're here. So share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like. That's just one way we say hello around here. It's very easy. And we'd love to hear that from you. Second thing is that you ask any and every mule or donkey question that you got. And we have a few that folks have sent in over the week, but really you are the one that drives this program. So if you got a question, pop it in there right now and we'll get to it. And then the third thing, we ask that you share the broadcast with friends and family. Steve, it's been 1 week. How's it going out there on the ranch?
My golly, we've been busy. We've got weeds we've been spraying, got them done, pretty much squared away. And the rattlesnakes are moving around. I had one, he had a problem. That rattlesnake, he got separated from his tail. So he'll figure it out, I'm sure. It's called separation anxiety when you're a rattlesnake around Queen Valley Mule Ranch. But anyway, we're getting ready for tomorrow morning at 0700. I'm going to be heading out with the guys in the fire department, and we're going over to Boccaccio Peak, and we're going to be working with the National Guard and Apache helicopters and getting ready for fire season. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of days and busy.
For those who don't know, Steve is a volunteer firefighter for the town of Queen Valley, and has been for a long time. Is it a decade yet, or is it coming up on a decade?
Well, we're coming up on 9 years now.
There we go. So we're getting closer to a decade, but he is a volunteer. And yeah, around here in Arizona, he gets real busy with fire season. It gets real dry out here. And so we're very grateful to all of our men and women who protect and serve, whether it's abroad or whether it's here at home. And Steve, we do appreciate you doing what you do, and all your friends going out there and putting in the work. And I mean, we wish there were no fires, but you do get to work with some pretty cool equipment and get to see some pretty incredible scenes. And so hey, if it's going to happen, get out there and give it your best. And so that'll be fun. Let's say hello to a few of the people who have already hopped on and joined us. Man, I'll tell you what, Steve, last week the show was so great, and I cannot believe, first off, how fast last week's program went by. Yeah. And then I was looking at today. I don't know if you feel this way too, but it just seems like the week went by so quick, and we're here already again after last week's program. Does it seem like it just goes by quick to you?
Oh yeah, and it's crazy, Dave. The older you get, the quicker things seem like it's going by. Wait a minute, I just woke up. Now I got to go back to bed. It's pretty incredible. It's good to stay busy. I
Yeah.
mean, you got three boys that keep you busy around there, you and your wife, and then you got your business and this sort of thing. And Susan and I, we have our church keeps us busy. We keep quite busy with doing things there. Between the Bible study that I teach on Thursday night, and then I'm also the head of security and medical as well. And so we're starting a whole new programs and putting some stuff together. And we've got some good quality people from EMS work, so that we got some EMTs and some charge nurses, and then we got some police officers, ex-police officers, and this sort of thing for the security. So it's going to be quite interesting. Never thought I'd be hearing about security or EMS in a church.
Yeah, no joke. And thankfully, we know how the story ends, and it's only a little while. It's only a little while. For those who know Jesus, this is the worst it'll ever get, and thank God for that. Now, I'm going to get a little selfish here for a second. You said I got three little boys that keep me busy, and they do. And I was thinking, so I've got a 10-year-old right now, and we're working through some things, and we've got a whole lot of wisdom on the other side here of the screen. Folks, you watching right now. So what I'm going to ask today, for me, I'm going to get a little selfish. Any point in the broadcast, just put what was the best for you who are parents or guardians or play an active role in a young person's life. What was the best parenting advice anyone ever gave you? I would love to read that. I'd love to see it, and that would be real cool, and maybe help me become a better dad working with these little guys. All right, Maggie is watching from North Carolina, 85 degrees and sunny. Kathy is watching. Howdy, everyone. Perfect day for this Mule and Donkey show. Warm and cloudy here in Houston, Texas. Cowboy Ken watching from a beautiful day in Connecticut, 67 and clear as he does. Jim is watching from Western Maryland, 74 degrees, holding down the East Coast. We love it, Jim. Hey, we've gone international here. Pouring rain in far north Queensland, Australia. Hello from Cassia, Firefly, and Galaxy. Love that. Good to have you guys here. Merlin watching live from northwest Minnesota. Cloudy with light rain and 51 degrees. Sherman Johnson, Taxidermy. Norman, Oklahoma, 85 degrees. Always good to have Sherman here. Paulie is here. Barnesville, Minnesota, 50 degrees with gale force, winds, and rain. There we go. David Pengelly, a beautiful, that's pretty hardcore there. And stay safe. David Pengelly, a beautiful day here in Manchester, Georgia. Chief Ben Williams at the fire department says hello, Steve. Wondered when you were coming back. Do we have any breaking news? We'll have to get another trip planned out there. I know he wants to, David. You don't even have to ask him. I know he wants to. We'll see what we can do. BK is watching from Northern California, 73 degrees. Our friend Hannah is watching from Dunedin, Florida, 89 degrees. It's hot. God bless America. That's right. Rory is watching from Southwest Ohio, 82 and big blue skies. I rode yesterday, first time in 5 months, finally received a spinal epidural. Rory, I hope you're feeling good. I hope it takes, and I hope it does everything it's supposed to do. Thank you for sharing that with us so we can pray for you. David is watching from South Arkansas, 75 degrees and showers. Let's see here. We've got Bush Pony watching from Maryland, 75 and sunny. Loving my come along rope. Miracles are happening. That's right. Jesus Christ has risen. And if you're looking for another miracle, grab that come along rope. It does wonders. Beth is watching. Bush Pony is Beth. Edna is watching from Spring Hill, Florida, 82 degrees, where it is beautiful and sunny. And Steve, today's first comment, it's not a question, it's a comment. Now, one of the things we talk about regularly, and it blew my mind when you first started telling me this. Folks would write in, they'd start describing all these problems they were having with their mule, things with their head and their neck and back, all these different things. And Steve would say, well, what about the teeth? What in the world do the teeth have to do with anything? But we talk more and more and more, and we find out that the teeth are vital. Primarily, the wolf teeth, getting the wolf teeth floated. Steve, Will you explain to me why it's vital to get the wolf teeth floated every year? We had someone on one of the Facebook, comments things saying you don't got to do it every single year. And so we're not afraid of any question. Why do you say, Steve, that it's important to get the teeth floated every year for the mule and the donkey?
Okay, number one, the wolf tooth is at the upper part of the teeth, and it's the very first little tiny tooth in front of the molars. That should get pulled the day your baby is castrated, should you have a John Mule, or the day your babies are separated from mama. That's the time to start getting things like that done. Now, here's what you got to understand. Don't let people tell you you don't have to take and get the teeth floated every year. Yes, you do. Okay. And all you have to do, if you know how to do it, is reach in there, get a hold of that tongue, pull it back out of the way, and feel back in there and feel points. You will feel points real quick. And here's okay, what's so bad about points? The problem is that as the animal is chewing its hay, now it bites with the incisors and then pulls it back into the molars, and the molars grind it. Okay, grind it. Now here's the upper and lower, and they grind it like this. They do not chew like this, they grind. Then there ends up being points. You see how my fingers are right there? You see how there's a point right there? They all need to look like that. Unfortunately, they don't. And Dave, and the rest of you listen to me. Every time somebody would bring a mule to my ranch, I would say, make sure two things were done. Number one, the teeth were floated. And number two, the chiropractor, three things actually. And number two, the chiropractor gave his okay. And number three, the animal was either shod or it was trimmed, one of the three. That way, that's the mechanical part. Dave, it is inevitable. Every single time I took and checked the teeth on these mules, the teeth were either horribly done or at most of the time were not done. Now, how do I know that? There's sharp points that are in there because, like I said, they grind their teeth, grind them, and there's going to be a sharp point. Now, here's the other thing. Why is that? Because in the beginning, the mouth is straight up and down when they're babies. As they get older, the mouth starts coming out like this. Now, I'm over exaggerating, but that's what happens. And it becomes, the animal is long in the tooth. That's another word for saying, saying that he's getting older. Okay. Now, as that happens, as the upper and lower jaws start moving out, okay, now the teeth are coming down closer together and they're going to grind even more. Now, here's the second part of this. They're not just a matter of grinding now, okay? They're also erupting. In other words, they're continually growing up. So you got a mouth that's growing out and teeth that are growing up, and it is going on every day, every year of their life, okay? Now, let's just look at the health part of it. Number one, if your teeth aren't healthy, you aren't healthy. You think about that. Your teeth have a lot to be done with your health, and you all know that. You should know that. Number two, if you want to have a colicky mule or a colicky horse, yes, they get colic. Yes, they do. Salmonella is one of the big ones. The other thing is because the teeth aren't floated. Why is that? Because they cannot grind their teeth, cannot grind their feed correctly. It has to be ground down really fine, you all, okay? It has to be ground down really fine because it has to go from the large intestines into the small intestine. Now, I'm going to have a talk with God about this because why would he do that? Why don't you just make one solid pipe? But he does it. Anyway, and so right where the two come together, that's where you can have an impaction, and that's where you have colic, and that's where you can have a very dead animal or a very expensive operation. I'm talking $5,000 on the minimum. And even then, these mules are not as good as they could have been because of that operation. Now, let's go on. So, how are you going to know if the teeth are sharp? One, if you know how to do it, between the incisors and the molars, you can reach your hand in there, get a hold of the tongue, pull it out, twist it, and then hold on to it, reach your hand in there. The other way, if you can't do it, is to feel on the outside of the jaw. And you can feel points, okay? You can feel points. Now, just above the eye is a socket, okay? Right behind the eye, as it comes around to a point, there's a soft spot. Hit that spot. As you hit that spot, you'll see that socket bubble up. The more it bubbles, the more you have a problem with teeth, especially the TMJ settings in the jaws. Now, let's go back some more. Let's go on some more. When a mule or a donkey or a horse drops their head, the lower shelf comes forward. Okay? Now I'm over exaggerating, but it comes forward. And when it does, if those TMJs are hanging up, or if the teeth are not floated correctly and they bind together, it hurts the animal's mouth. He blames it on that bit in his mouth, or you on his back, and goes to bucking. Yep, I have fixed a lot of mules that bucked because the teeth were not floated, because that lower jaw was hanging up. So there's a bunch of reasons. Now, test me, okay? Go online, you'll see it. Ask about it. How often should I get my teeth floated? Now, how did I learn this? School of hard knocks. 50 years of bouncing on the ground, 32 broken bones, and 2 replaced hips later, okay? Now, I also have been very fortunate as I've traveled all over the world training. I have met some of the best professionals in the equine world you can imagine. Dr. Robert Miller was one of them, okay? In Idaho, there is a dental school. And in Texas, there is a dental school for equine. And I happen to have a very good friend, who was teaching at that program there in Idaho. And I met him on my circuit as I was doing some things there in Minnesota. He was doing some teeth, and he couldn't believe it that as he was looking out across the mule show up there in Minnesota, he was watching. He says, "Steve, I've noticed something, and I've watched your clinics." He says, "Do you realize that 75% of the people out there doing that show are riding your saddles?" And the other thing he said was, "You notice those 75% are the ones that are doing the winning because their animals aren't sore." And then he would do demonstrations for us when I would do clinics in different parts of the United States, especially when I got over in Idaho. But he was skeptic. He was skeptical, saying, "How could your one saddle work on all these mules?" And he got a chance to see it. Matter of fact, he's got 6 of my saddles. But he's the one I learned from too. When he put that spectrum in there and opened it up, he'd say, "You know what? Look here, Steve. These teeth were supposed to have been done, and they're not done. They're nowhere near right. The mule still got a bite problem, So anyway, there you are, folks. That's a big pet peeve of mine. You don't take care of your mule. Don't listen to these horsemen that say that you don't have to do it every year. You do. Every spring, you'll have a healthier mule or donkey and a horse if you get it done.
Yeah, and folks, we've had plenty of live clinics where Steve will share information and his advice, and some folks will say, "Well, I've done it differently," and we're okay with that. We're just going to give you the information. We're going to ask that you give it a shot. Go out, listen to anything, and when you find something that works for you, go for it. We're going to share with you what's worked for us, and more than what has worked for us getting the result in one area, we're going to share with you how the advice doesn't cause problems in maybe 5 or 6 other areas that you won't know about until it may be too late or until there's a big problem to correct. So that's the approach that we've got. We're not afraid of any question. And we're not offended either if you choose to do something else, but we'll give it to you straight like we've learned it. Next question that I got, this one comes in from Becca. She sent a really nice message, and I kind of put it down into bullet points. She adopted a mule from a rescue. Mule's been untouched for almost 2 years, scared of humans. The mule bit my knuckle when sniffing my hand. I'm unsure how to approach the mule to gain her trust. The mule has a rope halter that might be causing discomfort. I'm considering having a vet sedate the mule for a health check and hoof trimming. The mule is very codependent on the mare that was rescued, so she rescued a mule and a horse together. The mule's history is unknown, but she acts like she's been abused. My husband wants to be the mule's quote-unquote person and eventually ride her. How should I approach the mule to gain her trust and safely work with her, given the mule's fear of human and codependence on the rescue mare? What a great question. Steve, what would you say to our friend Becca?
Okay, Becca, here's number one thing. Just because that mule is kind of offish, not saying, hey, buddy, come, how are you doing? Just because they're going like this and kind of looking at you, doesn't mean they've been abused, okay? I'm going to tell you that over the years, probably 75% of the mules that I start with are like that. Don't want to be around you, don't want to be touched, concerned about what you are. Remember what you are? You are a predator. They are a prey animal. You are automatically at odds because you're a predator. You're automatically at odds, okay? So now, approach. It ain't going to do any good to give them some handfuls of carrots and sneak up on them and things like this. You know, they are an equine. You have to be the head of the pecking order. Ask, tell, demand. How do I do that? Remember my story always. You got a bunch of mules and horses out in the pasture. All of a sudden, a new mule was let loose, and he's coming out saying, hey, look at all these guys. Hey, here I am, yada, yada, yada. And the lead mare, she comes over toward him, and she pins her ears. She asks him not to come any closer. Well, he keeps on coming. Now she pins her ears, and she swishes her tail. He keeps on coming. She turns and spins and kicks and bites and thumps and throws him on the ground. Folks, I have seen that a bunch of times, all right? A lot of times. That is one of the reasons I tell you, don't put your animals in with a bunch of other animals, a brand new animal. Put them in a separate pen. Put them in a 20 by 20 pen. Matter of fact, all your mules and animals should be in a 20 by 20 pen. So let's go on. So we're not going to sneak up on him. If he already has a halter on, the animal is now in danger. And the problem with this is that the mule can get hung up on corral panels and all kinds of stuff and beat himself up. All right. Now, if you knew how to rope, that would be one way to do it. Well, you could throw a hula hand, throw a rope on there and kind of fight it out a little bit. That's a tough way to do, but that used to be that was the only way that we knew how to do it because we didn't have round pins. Okay. There's no easy way to tell you how to do this. Okay. No easy way because the animal has already gone through several people over the years and has learned from all these different people, all the different things, and you all do the same thing. Come on, Fluffy, come on, come up here. Here's a carrot. Come. Y'all do the same thing all the time. You're not being anything but a predator. You need to be the head of the herd, head of the herd. And when I walk in, I've got my come along rope right here, okay? Right here on my arm, right here, right in there. And I walk in, kind of holding my arm like this. And when I walk into that pen, I am squared shouldered. I am looking straight ahead. I am looking at the shoulder. All right? Now I take a coil of rope loose a little bit, and the animal is looking at me. Now I got the coil of the rope in my left hand and a bunch of loops in my right hand. When I start to walk toward the shoulder, and I'm looking straight ahead, you look down and you look back up, you just ask for permission to come into that mule's herd. That's what you just did. That's why I tell you, look straight ahead. Don't worry about looking them in the eyes or anything like that. It's okay if you do that, but you're looking at the shoulder. Your left eye is going to be on that mule's left eye. Your right eye is going to be on that shoulder, but your focus is there. Why is that? That's the neutral zone. Neutral zone. That's where you want to approach. As you're going, if the mule is looking at you, he's saying, come on, visiting hours are on. If he looks away, stop. Don't keep going, because this is how animals get turn and take off, because you're the herd leader. They're looking at you, and then they're looking at you going like this, Oh, you want me to go that way because you keep coming toward me, and they turn and they take off. Know what you do when they look at you and they turn around and they look straight ahead. You stop, and then you take 1/2 of a step to the right. They're going to turn and look at you like, why did you move? All right. And when that happens, you're going to go toward that shoulder again. If that animal takes off at any one time and feet starts moving, you take that coil of rope and you throw it, bounce it against that animal's chest, against his side, wherever you can. You hoot and holler and you sound like a banshee. Otherwise, when you sneak up on them and you're going to give them a carrot and you're saying really nice things, you are being a mountain lion. You're being a predator. Okay? Go at it like that horse did. No, I've asked you, I've told you, demand upon you, keep your feet still. And that's what you want to do. That's your ultimate goal, is to keep the feet still. I was talking with a lady today, and she says, my mule already figures it out. When I want to go around in a circle, you know how you take the come along rope, goes underneath the neck, and goes around the back. She says, the mule's already going. And I said, oh, it's the mule's fault? She says, yeah, no. I said, it's your fault, because you're the one on the end of that come along rope. You're the one that said to tell that mule's feet to stand still. Feet standing still. Anybody can make feet go because they're an equine. Flight and fright. Anybody can do that. Not everybody can work on getting the feet to be quiet. So let's go back. That mule takes off. You throw the rope and you hoot and holler and scream, and he's going to get in the edge of the corral, and he's going to tuck his tail between his legs, and you're going to think, oh, poor mule. No, don't do that. If you do that, that mule's got you. And as soon as the mule gets quiet and looks back, you stop. And you get quiet. And then you step to the right or left or wherever to get the mule to turn around and face you. Now that is your steps that you'll be using from now on. Those steps right there. Put the mule in a 20 by 20 pen. When you're walking over with feed and you're starting to put the feed in the feeder, if they look away from you or walk away, put the feed down on the ground. In other words, don't pay them for leaving you. So I can go into hours, just even if I had several mules in my pens, and show you the different ones. That's the same thing I would do with all of them. There's no short way. Now, the next thing with the horse and the mule, take the horse and put it someplace else, okay? Because mules are extremely subservient to horses, extremely subservient. They will leave and let the horse have all their feed. They will let the horse beat them up. That's what they would do, okay? That's why you don't see mares, especially at Yosemite, and you don't see any kind of horse at Grand Canyon, because them horses make them mules plumb silly, period. So separate them. Keep them separated anyway, just for their health. And you all have heard me go into all that. So there you are, Dave. There's 2 long-term ones that took me a while to touch on.
No, that's great. Appreciate hearing that. Appreciate the explanation, too. That's going to be helpful for folks long-term here. Hey, next question came in from a friend who found you online, Steve, and is working with draft horses. He says, does the mule and donkey training program in your complete video collection sorry about that. I was trying to hold on to it, and I was like, I'm going to get through the question. I'm not. And then we sneeze. All right, let's start over. Our friend messaged in, does the mule and donkey training program, your complete video collection, work for draft horses too? I don't work with mules or donkeys. I don't own them. I'm not planning to, but I am a very beginner for draft horses. What do you think, Steve?
I would definitely be using my techniques with your draft horses. I have used them with draft horses. I had kind of a unique thing up in Susanville, California, and there was a college up there that I was teaching at. I was the professor of equine science there for the California college system there at one time before California become a communist country. But anyway, I went up there and a guy come up to me, had his arm in a cast, and I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, I couldn't get my horse to load, and it took about 5 of us, and my arm got broken trying to load this horse." I said, "Really? What was going on?" He said, "Well, the trainers were training on it, but then we went to put him in a trailer to take him home, and he wouldn't load." You imagine that. They didn't even do any halter training. So long story short, I wish I could find that video. I need to find that video. Here's this big horse, and I put that come along rope on there, Dave, and in a short time, about 20 minutes, that horse couldn't wait to jump in that trailer, and you can see it. Great big horse. I mean, I could stand underneath his nose. He's just huge, and it was all I can do to put that come along rope on there. But when I did, that horse started speaking Steve really quick. So yes, it does work. Picking up the feet, all the same way. I use the same techniques, the bidding program, everything pretty much. I would do the same with any horse, okay? Any horse at all. What I don't do is I don't do lateral flexions. I don't disengage hindquarters and silly things like that, because a mule knows how to run through his shoulder, and horses do too, but horses don't do it as much. Horses buck, horses rear, and horses run off, okay? But a mule, to evade things, they usually go through their shoulder. But yes, it will. Let me know how you do when you get into that.
Awesome. Next question. This one comes in from Susie. She says, "My green broke 14-2 donkey is good with his ears. Will the Martingale fit his head? Do you have a video on putting on a headstall on a big eared donkey? Just curious. I know you say your methods will work on donkeys too, but I mostly see you work on mules. Would your results in general take longer with the donk versus the mule? Do you have any videos on just donkeys?" And this from our new friend Susie, and I know that we've heard from her and been talking with her. Steve, what would you say about this Martingale and then working with the mule versus the donkey, or the donkey versus the mule?
Okay, understand, Susie, that this is Susie Rodriguez who we're talking about, I'm sure. Donkeys were just starting to come on when I started doing all my training videos. Now they're extremely popular, extremely popular. Yes, I do have videos just on training donkeys. Matter of fact, if you go to my website, it's called Saddle Donkey Foundation, and you'll see me start a donkey, a black Bart donkey, matter of fact, from Nevada, donkey ranch up there. And you'll see me start that donkey from groundwork up. And yes, you got to understand that half of that mule is donkey. So whatever I train on the donkey, the mule, and the horse. That's what you got, the three entities in the mule. But when it comes to training donkeys, I can train a donkey to do anything in half the time I can a horse or a mule. It's amazing. You don't think you got it. They're kind of sitting there going, and then a couple days later, they're showing you how to do it. Donkeys are absolutely incredible. I wonder if our buddy Dave Scholl from Australia has been chimed in. Has he chimed in?
Haven't heard from him yet, but let's hop. That's a good cue. Do you have anything else you want to say, Steve?
No, just send her that link to the donkey. It's a
Donkey Saddle Foundation.
Yeah, Donkey Saddle Foundation. And folks, anything I do with these mules, I have done with horses, and they were like butter in my hands. They just melted. I wished I'd have messed with mules and donkeys long before I started doing horses. They're incredible. I probably would have never gone to a horse if I'd have seen it. But I've got people time and time again. I was just talking to Marty Ray's wife in Shelbyville, Tennessee, where we're going to be doing the Mule and Donkey and Bluegrass Festival again this year. Now, it's going to be pretty awesome. We're going to have more information on that. But she was telling me she has gone all donkey. All donkey. She's got one mule left right now, but she's going all donkey. She said, Steve, they're so gentle, so easy to get along with. They're a nice ride. Yes, they are. Your mammoths are really nice. Your standards are really nice when it comes to riding. I have literally taught a mini mule to drive in less than an hour. Less than an hour. Had him hooked to a cart and was driving him off less than an hour. I did that in Ohio several years ago, but they're awesome. So everything that I do there with the mules, apply it to your donkey. And if you happen to only have horses, apply it to the horse.
Yeah, about about 10 years ago, Steve started telling me, Dave, folks are getting into these donkeys. We got to have more donkey information. The donkey is like, folks are really starting to find out about them, and they're real interested, and they're looking for information. And one of the things that I noticed as we started to give more and more donkey information and make changes on the website to help folks see that you can do this with a donkey was that, number one, everything Steve does with the mule can be done with the donkey. And in the instance that it can't, or it needs to be nuanced, Steve speaks up about that. Steve makes a special point to say, you may notice this, or you may want to do this, or you may notice the temperament of the donkey is different. He specifies it. So whatever you see on our website, you're going to see that we've gone to pains. And FYI, the website, free 100%. That's the F word we like there. You'll see that we've gone to great pains to emphasize the mule and the donkey. Both benefit from the training, and then when there are nuances, we mention those as well. And if you have a specific question, call us up, ask us, and we'll do our best to give you that information. So speaking of David Scholl, let's see if he's here. Let's hop back over, and I want to say hello to Marcia, watching from Virginia, where it's nice and sunny. Sharon, watching from Kelowna, British Columbia. We've gone international, 2 degrees Celsius, and snowing a little here in the mountains. Dave O'Brien from East Texas, 80 degrees and muggy. James says, last week my mule had the annual vet visit along with shots, and the teeth were floated. And guess what? They stopped eating down the barn. Get those teeth floated.
How about that? You know, they chew because it feels good.
Yeah.
When their teeth, their mouth isn't right, they have to chew. And they'll chew down a barn, I'll guarantee it.
Yep, there you go. Thank you much. Hey, we're getting closer and closer to David and I. We got Tracy watching from Lowood, Queensland, Australia. Good to have you here. Kristen is watching from North Central Idaho, partly cloudy, little chilly. And Kristen's got a question regarding leading pack animals. I have an 8-year-old John who is relatively new to our family, about a year. He seems to be terrified of leading a pack animal behind him. I may as well be leading a bear behind him. He is relaxed and walks calmly down the trail when he is last in line. Even when leading down the trail without a pack animal just in front of the group, he is also nervous and walks out very quickly as if he is trying to run away from everyone. Do you have any ideas? Is there some trauma from before we had him? I've tried to come along at home with a pack animal tied behind, and he does somewhat better. But once we're on the trail, it is an accident waiting to happen. Would sure appreciate your input. And Kristen, I want to applaud you for asking the question, seeking out the information, and I know you've got a teachable spirit and you want to learn. I can hear that coming through your question. I just think that's awesome. Steve, what would you say to encourage Kristen?
Oh, Kristen, I've had so many animals like that, you know. Not that they've been abused or anything like that, okay? It just happens to be their little goose in the back end. It's not unusual. When I start a young mule in a pack string, I always start him right here. My first mule, he's the one that has the least experience, and he's the one that is usually the youngest or the one with some issues. Most of the time the issues are from people. Now go back. If you cannot control that mule from your riding horse or donkey or whatever it is that you're riding, you have not done your foundation work correctly. Okay? Now understand, folks, just because you're doing a couple things and he's doing okay does not fix your hands. Your hands are the biggest problem. Your timing is the biggest problem. Okay? Now, on the ground, as you're leading that animal should be about, on the ground, should be about 3 foot from you in the very beginning. And as you just barely wiggle that rope, that mule stops, then you stop. Now, I was just telling a lady about this earlier today. She was saying, my mule is doing this, that, and the other. I said, no, it's not the mule, it's you. It's you. How many times have you seen that, Dave, when people say, my mule's not doing so-and-so, and I walk over and get that mule, and all of a sudden that mule does everything right? Yeah, it's not the mule all the time, folks. So let's go back. You should be able to barely wiggle that rope, and that mule stop instantly. Instantly. Do you hear that? Barely wiggle the rope. Not a big jerk or anything like that. Barely wiggle that rope, and the mule stop instantly. Now, when I go right, left, easy. Now, you see me move my hands a bunch. In the beginning, you're going to move it a bunch. But as you are progressing and you're starting to get it right, you hear that? Starting to get it right, you can use your wrist only. Okay? I want him to stop. Roll my wrist. Rope comes from the bottom. Only time I want my rope to come through the top is when I want it to back up. Now the rope comes across the top. I move my wrist right, left, right, left. Every time I go right, left, the mule will back up. When I roll my wrist, the mule will stop. When I roll my wrist and move my elbow, the mule will go forward. You see? Not a bunch of this. Unfortunately, watch your horsemen. They'll pull way over to the right or way over to the left. No. Your horn is your stop. Your pommel is as wide as you want your hands. When I want to go to the right, I turn my wrist and I go to the right. This is foundation training. This is not finish training. This is foundation training. I want to teach my mule a neck rein. I turn my wrist, direction. I move my wrist and my fist together, impulsion. My horn tells me my wrist goes no further than the place of my horn. So I keep myself small. Listen, folks. If they can feel a fly and move it, why are you over pulling? Why are you overdoing it? I designed my cinches, for instance. Okay, my cinches have a pad, and they've got a metal D-ring where your latigos go. When you pull that D-ring past that pad, guess what you did? You over pulled it. I got elastic on the inside so that it gives and takes with the animal, but it's also to keep you from over-tightening the cinches. See? We tend to overdo this stuff, and we don't need to do this. Don't need to do that. So let's go back, okay? Will my martingale fit every mule and donkey out there? Absolutely. You should have seen the hundreds of bridles and stuff I used to have. Now I'm down to just one. All the different saddles I used to have. Now I'm down to just one. I've done enough of them. I can handle that. So let's go back. When it comes down to that come-along rope, do the smallest thing to get the biggest thing done. If you're in the saddle and you can't do the slightest movement to get your young mule who doesn't like something behind him, then you shouldn't be in a saddle. You should be on the ground, all right, and you're ready, and all of a sudden, a guy with a mule starts to walk up behind. A split second. You hear this? As soon as that ear moves on that mule toward that mule back behind him, or nose or anything, you bump him. You make it uncomfortable. Bump, bump, bump. Anytime that something is not correct or is making you uncomfortable, you give them a hard bump, bump, bump. I mean, try to rip their nose off to show them that what they're doing is incorrect. Okay? Eventually, you'll get to where you barely have to move your wrist. Barely. If you'd have seen my wife's mule, Stacy, or one of my own personal mules, you just see I barely move my hands. Barely. And they're willing to respond and go. Get to where, folks, you're like a fly rather than like an elephant. There you go.
Awesome. Let's see here. Dave O'Brien says, my Molly mule occasionally chews or itches the meaty part of her tail. I wormed her a month ago. Do you have any idea why?
Well, Dave, you're probably zinc deficient, but the only way you're really going to know, and all you all think about this, is you're going to have to get you a hair follicle test or a blood test to see what they are low on. If they're low on zinc or calcium or something, that's going to tell you. And folks, when they start chewing on their own body, most of the time it's a zinc problem. So you need to look at that. But first, have the vet do it. Have them do some tests on it. Folks, look, my vitamins are not like Dave's vitamins or anybody else's. I have one multivitamin that I take, and I take one little, I forget what I have now, one for cramps and this sort of thing, and the other one is just a small little capsule. I forget what it is now, but nothing major. But that's just me. Now I've got friends that's got a handful of pills, but their blood test tells them they have to have it. So you guys get that blood test, and then you'll figure it out there, Dave.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about a lot, and haven't really talked about it as much this year as in years past, but when discussing feed and nutrition, folks are really looking for a silver bullet as far as feed goes. There is no silver bullet, but there is a good starting point. And if you do a search on Google for Mule and Donkey Nutrition Program, you'll come across Steve's article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. And inside there, you're going to find the ingredients for a good starting point for your feed and nutrition program. Now, why it's a starting point is because of what Steve just said. Every animal is going to be different biologically. And then based upon their history, just after they've been born, there may be some things that need to be correction. But you're only going to find that out with a hair follicle test or a blood test. And getting that full 360-degree picture of your animal, it's going to help you serve them better, and it's going to help them to be happier, and that equals you being happier in so many ways. So that's an important thing that we used to talk a lot about, and just folks haven't brought it up as much. I got a question here, Steve. Someone on YouTube, I feel like that could be like the statement of a generation. Somebody on YouTube left a comment. Somebody made the comment that a donkey is for packing and storing. A donkey is not for riding. We've never talked about that, and I'm curious. Is it true that a donkey is just for packing and storing, and you should not ride a donkey?
Tell that to Jesus. It didn't say he'd come in leading the donkey. He'd come in riding that donkey. All right. Now that's 2,000 years ago. And Solomon, him and his boys jumped on their ass. Oh, you mean to tell me they led them into battles, or they led them? No, folks. I tell you what, I've been to Egypt and Israel. I've trained mules on the Sinai Desert. Now, how many of you mule trainers have done that? Pat myself on the back a little bit. Let me tell you this. You watch those guys in Egypt. They're not sitting in the middle of that donkey's back. They sit on the hip. And they use a stick to go on the right and on the left to get that donkey to steer. No bit. Riding completely bitless now. All right? Completely bitless. and they're riding with a stick. Why? Because that donkey has probably been up and down that road a lot of times, taking this guy from his house to his job or to see friends or whatever, and knows the way. And let me keep on going. We got these luxurious corrals that we're putting these animals in. You know what? In Egypt, they've got a stake in the ground and they got a 3 foot rope with a hobble on it. And the right rear leg is hobbled. That is where the donkey spends his life. Hear it? On a hobble. And our donkeys and mules have got it made plus, 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 plus. Not counting our dogs have got it made, but let's go on. Okay. Yes, they need to be ridden. Okay. Riding. I was, again, I'm talking to Marty Ray's wife, and they're in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and big mule folks. They eat, drink, and sleep mules all their life. Okay. And she says, I've gone to donkeys. She says, my donkey can lope a circle and can do a reining pattern almost as good as my reining mule, almost as good as some of these guys' reining horses. A donkey, yes. They are meant to be ridden. Yes, ridden, riding, driving, packing. You can't find a quarter horse that can ride, drive, and pack, especially the driving aspect of it. Talk about a runaway. I've been there, okay? I have taken mule, horse, mule, horse, mule, horse, and driven all 6 of those because the mules knew what to do and the horses went bockers in harness. Oh, they're not easy to train at all in harness. Not easy. Anyway, go back. Yes, ride your donkey. They are wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Darren is watching from Iowa, 70 and windy. Dave O'Brien asks the question, generally, at what early age should I start thinking about floating their teeth?
Well, that's going to vary. And the best thing you can do is to learn. I know this is hard for you all to think about. You got the come along hitch on, and you got your animal standing quiet and stuff. Slide your hand in there, get a hold of the tongue, pull the tongue out, hold on to it. David, we got any video of me doing that? We should have.
I'm sure we do. I don't know it. I don't know how to find it that quick, but I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah, no big deal. Maybe in the future, if you're thumbing around through that stuff. I think when I go to Shelbyville, she's got some donkeys over there, and I'm going to do some basic donkey. Why does my mule do that donkey stuff? Anyway, so let's go on. What was I talking about, Dave?
It was Dave O'Brien's question. What age should you start thinking about floating their teeth?
Yeah, well, get to where you can kind of feel the teeth, Dave. If you can stick your hand in there and pull the tongue out and run your hand around in there and kind of feel. Usually, they're getting rid of their front teeth. They're mainly their front teeth that they're getting rid of all the time. Okay, that they fall out and they grow new ones and this sort of thing. But it's the back ones, the molars, that really need to be doing the trimming. Run your hand down alongside on the outside and see if you can feel it. See if they do anything funny. If you can, watch them eating. If they're spitting out quite a bit of feed, that means that their tongue is being bit by their teeth, and that sometimes creates a problem. So usually about 3 years old, I'm starting to really look at floating teeth, real serious. And guys that I know that do dental work have given me a variety of answers on that, anywhere from 3 years old up, some 2-year-olds, depending on their mouth, But you got to have a healthy mouth, y'all. That's so important in the health of your mules and your donkeys.
One question I got, somebody was making a comment about a power float. Now, I'm not familiar with this, but just said that a power float can cause irreparable damage. What is a power float, and is it something to be concerned about, Steve?
Usually, what a power float is, it's on like a grinder, and there's got a special little tool that you can go in there and go, and you clean them all up, and it does it pretty quick. It's not near as tough on the dentist as it is, and it's a lot quicker as well. But Any kind of work when it's done incorrectly is going to cause a problem. I know veterinarians that use both floating of using hand tools and floating using power. You know, I see no harm in either one of them as long as it's done right. The big thing is the bite, folks. You know, when you close down, let me tell you. Here we go. If you really want to know, Dave, and the rest of you, Dave, you were asking about how young. Take your lower jaw and your upper jaw, and you go back and forth, right, left, and listen. If you hear a bunch of grinding and you feel it catching, you've got teeth that need to be floated. That's one of the easiest ways. I don't know why I didn't think about that till now. Okay. My favorite way is to reach in there, pull the tongue out, and feel it. I can do that pretty quick. But otherwise, take your upper and lower and go slow and listen. If you hear the grinding or if you feel catching, then you've got some teeth problems. Give that a try. Especially, folks, if somebody tells you that the teeth have been floated, give that a try. That plus the button behind the eye will tell you a lot.
Rory says, I just had my 2 mules' teeth done last Thursday. The vet looked at me like, hey, didn't we just do this last year? I said, yep, but please check them again. Vet spent plenty of time rasping them down. My mules are both mid-teens. So there you go, folks. If you got some folks who might say, hey, you don't really need to do it. Rory just had them done last year, and the vet went in there. The vet was skeptical, it sounds like, and the vet went in there and had plenty to rasp down. And these are young mules. They've got to have it done. Marsha asked a question, Steve. She says, do you have any problems riding with your artificial hips? I have 2, but have dislocated my right one twice. Now I don't dare to mount. And so, folks, Steve shared on here in the past that several years back he had both hips replaced and has artificial hips there. So, yeah, it's a relevant question, Steve. Any experience to share with Marsha?
Marsha, my left hip went septic. And septic means, folks, that I had a really hard time coming back. I was very sick. And they replaced that left hip 5 times. Matter of fact, my 5th one was the latest, greatest, the very best, and that was 7 years ago. And I can tell you, Marsha, that before I could not ride. I thought it was the way my saddle was rigged, and I had done all this work to my saddles and this sort of thing. No, it's just me getting old and my hips being gone bad. My hips have been really good. I can walk, I can ride, and I can ride, 10 hours a day, no problem at all. And I don't know how long ago you had your hips replaced, but my last one was done just about 7 years ago, Marsha. It was the best thing I ever had done.
Let's see here. Judy's watching from Gazelle, California. Nice day, with a nice day. Enough to get here late because I was out with my mule. Hey, we'll never begrudge that there, Judy, out there enjoying life. That's what we're here for, to help you do that. So we don't want to get in the way of it. So good to have you, though. We'll take you any time of the day. Christina is watching, as she does, from British Columbia. Cold today, 4 degrees, sunny, and hailing. Oh, stay safe. Andrea, good to hear from you, Andrea. Watching from Florida, 75, had a nice morning ride with my donkey. Rory says, yes, sir, always packed my string. Worst is first and best is last. Chantel is here watching from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, International. Sherman asks, what do you think about a mule that has a donkey rear end hips that sticks out like a donkey? Confirmation for riding, is the rear end going to be able to perform like a stalker rear end mule?
Yeah, when the hips are that weak like that, Sherman, it's tough. They do okay, all right, but you really need a lot of muscle. You need a nice big gasket muscle just above the knee, and that's really important. That's your motor. Your hip is your motor. So if you've got a raftered, we call it peaked butt, they're a lot more difficult to do anything with. By the way, Dave, I sent you some pictures of Sherman doing some groundwork, and he's doing everything with the lead rope on the ground and doing it just like I've been telling everybody how good that come along works. If we don't find it today, we'll find it later on, Sherman, but Sherman has been doing that. He's been doing very good.
The only ones that I have queued up are the ones that we got from Mike with Old Red. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, take a look at that one time.
All right, let me open those up here. Get those up on the screen
I
for
know
you
we
to.
got to get out of here pretty quick. I got to get my brother-in-law at the airport.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's talk about this and
Okay.
then we'll wrap it up. Okay, here
All
you
right.
go.
Okay, so see how nice this mule is, folks. Good looking mule, young mule. He's been riding it now. But look at the hind end and the gasket muscle. You notice how the neck comes up out of the shoulders. That type of an animal, horses and mules, are usually the gaming type animals. They're usually ones that you use for doing barrel races and pole bending or reining classes and this sort of thing. The ones that are framed up. Now, right now, yes, he's looking up and he's looking up, but notice his neck comes up out of his shoulders rather than down out of his shoulders. But look at the nice conformation. He'd like to find another mule to match up with this. Be tough because this mule's got some awesome, awesome conformation. Really nice conformation. Notice here in the picture, notice how the neck is coming up out of the shoulder, not as erected as was before. If he was standing normal, then his head would be down, his nose would be on the vertical. Now, I'm going to pick on Mike a little bit here because here's the problem. That halter is misadjusted. The halter is not behind the ears, and it's real high on the nose, and he's got that great big snap on there. Now, I can tell you that if he took the snap off and he adjusted the halter correctly, this mule's head would come down. Right now, this mule's tightening all 5 major neck muscles to keep from having the pressure of that big heavy snap upon his nose. Okay, so if you all notice, all of you chime in there. What do you see there about that halter? It's incorrectly adjusted. It needs to be back behind the pole, right in behind the ears, and the nose piece needs to be down 2 inches above the nostril. But other than that, folks, if you all know of any mule that has nice conformation that'll match this mule, give us a holler. We want to help Mike out find this thing.
Awesome. I know you got to go here. How do you know if a donkey is big enough to ride? Is there a quick answer for that?
It just depends on the person. It just depends on the person. How big is that person? I don't see my wife getting ready to leave yet, so we can answer a couple more questions until Susan leaves.
All right. Yvonne has the question. When I start to put the halter on my mule, she kind of butts me with her head and pulls away. What kind of correction should I use?
Okay, so folks, listen. Putting a halter on is the icing on the cake. You got to prepare the cake. In other words, your right hand behind the pole, left hand on the nose. I've got a lot of video about this. But when the mule drops his head, take your hand off, put your hand back on. He'll drop his head some more. Take your hand off, put your hand back on. Drop his head some more. I've got videos showing that the mule drops his head, tips his nose to the left, and keeps the head there. There is where we want to put the halter on. The reason this is happening to you is you've tried to put the halter on any way the mule wanted to, and now you end up with bigger problems. So, folks, this is what you need to do. You want something before it happens. Fix it before. So fix it. Drop the head, drop the nose to left. Put your hand behind the pole and no weight, no pressure. Hold it there. Put your hand on the nose. Hold it there. The split second, that mule, okay, the split second you feel that mule give, you let go, put your hand back on. He'll give again, let go, put it back on. Got the idea? Get to where you can do that 3, 6, 9, 12. Then start putting the halter on. The biggest problem, folks, it's not the mule, it's not the donkey, it's us. It's our hands. We get in a hurry. We overdo it. Keep relaxation. Enjoy the animal, for heaven's sakes. Relax. It's not important to go riding. It's important to keep your animal soft. You're being a predator when you teach them to elevate their head. I know it's not your fault. Most of you don't understand this, but go soft. When you put a bridle on, that head needs to be down, nose tip to the left. You put a halter on. That mule needs to go put his head down, put his nose left. Any of my own personal mules and the mules that I trained, the very first thing I did was put the softness back in them. I don't get in a hurry. I relax. Go easy. It's not like, folks, it's not like when you're working for a rancher and you got to go get the job done. Okay. You bought these animals to escape reality out there. You bought these animals to relax, didn't you? So, in order to do that, you need to relax. Teach the mule and the donkey, drop their head, tip the nose to the left, and when it stays there, we got a lot of videos out on this. When it stays there, then you can go ahead and put the halter on, and the bit, and the bridle. And when you take it off, the same way. Head down, nose tip to the left.
Val's watching from sunny and warm Pennsylvania. Andrea says, I just had the dentist come out and float my 3 donkeys' teeth. I do it every single year. Last question of the day comes from Richard. Says, do you have a particular video that I can watch on YouTube or something that can help me make a connection with my mule? What would you say to someone, Steve, on how to make that connection with the mule? Do you have any recommendations?
You know, it's impossible to video something like that, you all. I have to watch you and watch the mule. All the time when I do these clinics over the years, and when people come to me and want to buy a mule, come to me and want to train him, I watch the person, I watch the mule. Okay. The best thing you all can do is relax. Relax. Don't go in like a mountain lion roaring. Go in, relax, take it easy. Rub them on the shoulder. Hey, how's your day going? You know, give them a good pat on the shoulder. Then put the halter on with the head down, nose to the left. Here's what happens. We go in there, we jam the halter on. Go in there and jam. No. Go in there. How's your day going? Give them a good pet and scratch. You know, all of my mules, when I come in, they drop their head, tip their nose to the left because they didn't want me to put the pressure of my hands on their head. They got to where if they got the relaxation right off the bat. Relax, folks. Take it easy with these animals. Hey, and Dave, I had a lady tell me from Portico, Arizona. She says, Steve, I love your training. I don't like your politics. Well, that's okay, folks. You know, as long as you're getting something done with that mule and donkey, you're going to hear me say 2 things. And that is, number 1, I'm going to tell you the truth. The other thing I'm going to tell you about Jesus.
That's right. Amen. Hey, Cindy. Cindy asked a question. Hey, you have any clinics coming up this summer? We do 1 clinic a year right now, Cindy, and that is the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival happen in Shelbyville, and Steve is going to be active there during the majority of the event. He's going to be there. He's going to be available. He's going to be hanging out, and he wants to meet you. So we'll have more information on that coming up. American Mule and Bluegrass Festival in Shelbyville, Tennessee. I want to tell y'all, check out the podcast. We've got awesome episodes coming out multiple days a week. We're digging into the archives. We're bringing out the best. We're putting it on the podcast so you can ride with us in the car. You can ride with us in the tractor. You can ride with us on the ATV, on the off-road, on the mule. You can take Steve Edwards wherever you want to go, and he fits in the pocket right there on the phone. Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done today?
Pray for America. Pray for the peace of Israel. See you later, folks. Bye.
God bless. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.